Ah, it's morning. Um, I'm wearing my dark glasses because this is a little bit about music, and I just felt that the hat and glasses would be appropriate. Um, Good morning. Cheers. So, um, this this is Tobor the Ape Man, which Tobor backwards is robot, and in the '60s was a big series, an animated series in Japan, big in Japan. This is a very modern design. He didn't look like this at all. It was really very simple. It almost looked like very early Disney, like 1928. Very rough, but at any rate, in the '70s, mid '70s, I'm going to take these off. I just thought it was coherent. In the mid '70s, I had a band. Music and visual art and writing have been a part of my life since childhood. And I was trained on classical clarinet and learned a number of concertos. Some I loved and some I hated. Most I loved Mozart concerto for clarinet in A, Kugel 622. I hated and I played for 40 years. I've said that before, I think, because I remain obsessed with that. At any rate, I graduated to jazz, and from jazz to rock, and then guitar by the time I was about 18 or 19. And I've played guitar ever since, and played clarinet for 40 years. And I had professional gigs, some big ones. We were in a concert with about 15,000 people, with what's called aleatoric music, which, if you're interested, aleatoric, it's a whole other form of music that a very famous composer brought me into an ensemble to play. You can look it up if you want. At any rate, we had a band, and it was a lot of fun, and we were pretty damn good. I think we had a pretty good chance to move on up, but there were some serious problems. One of them is the road, which very few people are aware of what the road is like for musicians. And I won't get into that because that's a whole discussion. As an example, I have a friend who's a guitar player who went on tour with Dizzy Gillespie. I mean, how much better can it be than that? And I went. They had a concert gig in Mexico City, which I went to, and then I had lunch with him the next day, and I wanted to know, what it was like to be on the road with Dizzy Gillespie, and he said that he was quitting the tour. And I said, why? He said, I can't take it. I said, you're in your 30s. What do you? He said, well, Dizzy's is like almost 60, and he's an animal. He's going to have 200 concerts in a year, and I'll be dead. I'll be dead. I'm going home. So that'll just give you an idea. Some of you know about it. Or the Ramones on tour for 20 years, and they stopped touring, and they all died within a couple of years. I don't understand anything. Obviously, I'm moving all over the place because that's what happens when I try to tell a story. My brain connects to a lot of things, and they're all very exciting. So here I go. The band had a guitar player, and his name was Claude. And I think it was Jean-Claude, but it might have been Claude. And Claude was French, like really French, from France. From Paris, as a matter of fact. And he had a Les Paul, a black Les Paul Deluxe, beautiful guitar. And he was a very good guitar player. And I was basically lead singer and rhythm guitar and played some leads. He was a far better guitar player than I am, and we had a lead guitar player, Avram, who was young. I was in my mid-20s, and Avram was maybe 19, and he was a genius, and he was so good at playing, and was killed in a car crash, which I never got over. He was like my little brother. At any rate, Claude had a gig at a very fancy restaurant in which he would sit on a circular platform under this incredible skylight and these very expensive lunches with very high level clientele. And Claude would sit under the skylight and play guitar, some of it classical and some of it modern. And he would also play night gigs there as well. And we were invited to go out and watch him play his gig, and we went. My bass player, whose father was a very famous matador, believe it or not, and a doctor in philosophy from the United School of Mexico, very high level institution. And he was like a philosopher. Amazing. So we're out there, and the restaurant's beautiful, and the food's fantastic, and Claude is playing, and it's all very wonderful, and everybody's very relaxed and everything. So suddenly Claude says that he's going to take a break, and what he would like to do is invite someone up to play while he's on his break. And then he says, Jeffrey, would you like to play? And I'm like, oh my God, what? Okay. So I don't play classical music. I basically play jazz very simply and blues, but I can really play the blues. I don't know why I can play the blues, but I just can. I understand it really well. I told my mother once that I was conceived in Louisiana, and she said, we were not in Louisiana. I said, I know you had an affair with a black blues guitar player. She was in her 90s when I told her that. She got very angry. And then a couple weeks later, I called her and she said, oh, it's the Louisiana kid. So she had a sense of humor. So I agreed, and I said, okay, I mean, whatever. And I went up there and I started playing the blues. Not hardcore. I was playing the blues, but not like, John Lee Hooker. I was playing soft blues. And as I was playing, in front of me, at about 20 feet, there was a table with a middle-aged businessman, very well-dressed, and a woman who, I don't know if it's his wife or what, but she was very, very attractive and dressed impeccably. And as I was playing, she was acting weird. And I was thinking, gee, I hope my playing isn't upsetting her. I'm just playing a very soft blues thing here. And suddenly she lurched backward onto the floor and was lying there completely convulsed and then went unconscious. So from our table, the doctor in philosophy goes running over, gets down on his hands and knees, rips open her blouse, does contractions or compressions, or no, contractions is when you have a baby. No, it's compressions. And he's doing compressions, and then he does mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and she comes back. She was almost turning blue, and she's lying there, and he's over her, and she's now conscious, and a number of people are gathered around. She looks down, she sees her breasts, which were sticking up in the air, of course, and she looks at him and looks at herself and says, "Are you a doctor?" And he said, "Yes, but in philosophy." She fainted. And he didn't have to do the compression, he didn't have to do the breast thing anymore. What he did is he just sprinkled a little cold water on her and like that, and she came to again. And that's the story. Okay.